Hello everybody, my name is Chris Price. I'm a professional composer, arranger, and music producer, and today I want to teach you guys how to have better chords and better harmony. Now I want to first say I'm not like other music YouTubers. I'm not going to spoon feed you guys information because that's not helpful at all. If you just copy and paste other people's works but really not understand why these things are working, it's not really helpful for you as a musician. I believe that musicians need a good compositional palette and not just be stealing things randomly. With that said, I'm going to give some really good advice, and this is what I use for all my chords, no matter what type of genre I'm doing. If I'm doing jazz, pop, country, if I'm doing some EDM stuff, it all will make sense. Even for arranging, I use these things because they're very important, and some of these practices are very old and have stood the test of time. First tip I want to give, use good voice leading. Now think about what chords actually are. It's a set of different notes. So if I play this, you might think, oh, that's just D minor. But really, what's going on inside there? Well, it's several different voices that are coming together to harmonize together. Now think about where music really started from. Originally we had those plain chants where it's just one or two people singing the same line, the same melody. Well, eventually other melodies came in and interjected with each other. And then you got where counterpoint really first started. You have one person singing and then a second person singing some other melody. Now what I just played right there were two separate melodies working in tandem together. So when you're writing your chords, you want to think of each note as its own melody and make it singable. Now one thing I really like about composing for big ensembles is I get to see how each part will come together in the overall harmony and have their own melody. This is also known as voice leading. Basically, it means that all the harmony and everything else is just working together in a way that makes sense, and each part has its own melody. So for example, if I were to go from F major to B flat major, it makes more sense to do that rather than to jump. So if you're doing that with the harmony, you want that to be a deliberate choice, not just randomly throwing chords around because you don't know inversions and stuff like that. So inversions are really important for keeping good voice leading. So if I were to go from F major to D minor, F major and D minor share a lot of notes. If I play them just in the original root position, they share these two notes. So, meaning I can just move the note that's not shared up to where it would be in D minor. Bam. F major to D minor. You want everything to be horizontally rather than vertically. It's also more fun for the players. I don't know about you, but if I'm in a band and I'm playing a really bad arrangement where everything's just jumping around and I'm playing the harmony, I don't have a good time. I've had people before play my music where I didn't really care about the voice leading, and they would complain about the massive jumps that they would have to make. So yes, be very careful about your voice leading. It's easier to play, it can sound a lot better, it can sound smoother, and it makes sense melodically if you play it line by line. When you're harmonizing jazz music, a lot of the way it works is it's individual melodies that will come together to create one full melody, but there's harmonization under it. A lot of my arrangements, I use jazz type harmony to make it sound more full, when in reality, I'm just using good counterpoint that's close together. Counterpoint has definitely evolved in a lot of ways. You don't need to use all the rules that you learned in your freshman year of college. Honestly, I just think of counterpoint meaning make sure that each line is very melodic. If you listen to your inner parts and they don't make a good melody, try to find a way to fix it around. It's also very helpful if you're arranging something and you use a really good inner part, you can copy that inner part and use that as a melody for later. So with all of these chord progressions I'm going to talk about today, I'm just going to use a very, very simple chord progression. I'm going to use the 1, 6, 4, 5. Also known as the 60s progression. It's used in Heart and Soul. So here's an example of it. We got F major, D minor, B flat major, C major. Now let's use this with good voice leading. So we got F major, then we can move over to D minor, then we got B flat major, then we got C major, back to F major. Now there's two different ways that we could have the C major at the very end. We can either move up back to F, or we can move down and then back to F. Now it's really a stylistic choice right there what you want to do. So if you're going up and then back down, it can really sound like a repeated line going back and forth. It has a very different feeling than if you were to go down and then back up. Going down and back up just feels like a dip inside the harmony, repeating back to what it was before, whereas the other one is like a gate being slammed shut. Not saying one is better than the other, it's really compositional choice, and you want to make good, deliberate compositional choice and not randomly throw it out there and have no idea what you're doing. Good voice leading is why guitars can sound amazing. What's happening is you can imagine each string has its own individual melody, and you can see how they move up and down and create their own beautiful melodies, coming together to create this really cool harmony as chords. Next, I want to talk about extensions, and extensions I believe are extremely important. So what do I mean by extensions? You take the normal major chord or minor chord and then you add to it. Now you may be wondering, how the heck do I find what good extensions are? And here's a very good rule of thumb. If it's a major chord, you're either having a major type chord or a dominant type chord. And if it's a minor chord, only really do a minor type chord. It's pretty simple. There's a little bit more nuance to that, but that's the basic rule. That's honestly what I use. I rarely use anything else because I don't need to. I don't have reasons to do something else. So first question is, how do you know if it's a major type or a dominant type chord? Usually if the chord is the fifth of the scale, so let's say we're an F major and bam, we have a C major chord, that usually means it is a dominant type chord, meaning that the seventh is going to be flat. Hear how much tension there is right there? Here, let's hear it again. It feels like that wants to move somewhere. Where does it want to move to? It wants to move down to the one or up to the one, whichever way you want to go. So if we're using our good voice leading, that right there, we have the C dominant 7 moving to F major. Perfect. So if it's not a dominant type, it's a major type, and that just means that the 7th is major. So how do you keep on going with the extensions? Because we only made it to the 7th right there. You know, we got the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th. How do we get the 9th? Well, you just keep on going up the scale. 9, and then let's go to the 11th, and then the 13th. But I actually just did something wrong right there. The 11th is very sacred. In major and dominant type chords, the 11th can sound horrible. When I play it all together, it doesn't sound too bad, but there's quite a bit of nasty crunch inside there, and it's also a pain to work with voice leading. And that's because the 3rd and the 11th are the worst interval possible. The minor 9th. Tritone, that's nothing compared to the minor 9th. Oh, I hate that sound. So what we do to get around this, just sharp it. Sharp 11. See, that's not grating to the ears at all. That's a lot better, a lot sweeter sounding. Very pretty. You want to do the same with dominant type chords. So if we go back to the C dominant that we had, and we expand it out, see that right there? The 11th and the 3rd are going to rub together. Now let's go up a half step on the 11th to make it a sharp 11. That's a lot better. That's beautiful sounding. Yeah, I really like that sound a lot. I use dominant 13 sharp 11s all the time. Now you don't have to use every single note from it, and you don't have to use that same exact order, but for a rule of thumb, if you're doing a dominant type chord, use the dominant 7, use that minor 7. Even if you're going to take out the 5th of it, you want to use that, because that tritone really is what creates the leading voice of it. A very quick tip on how to find what the sharp 11 is. Instead of going through the major scale in thirds, go through the Lydian scale. It naturally has the sharp 11 to it, because the 4 and the 11th are the same exact thing, and Lydian is sharp 4 on a major scale. Now for minor type chords, what you want to do is you want to go to minor and use the Dorian scale. For the same exact reason, because the 13th and the 5th sound really bad if you use it with the flat 13th and the 5th. That's just gross. So always use Dorian. Experiment with different voicings, different voice leadings, different extensions, and you can find some really beautiful stuff. Now, a quick side note, if you're using dominant type chords, the 9th and the 13th are malleable and that you could sharp them or flat them to create different sounding stuff. So if I take that dominant 13 and flat the 9, that's cool. And then if I sharp the 9, now it's going to be pretty crunchy, and we are going to make some minor 9ths, but there's always exceptions. These minor 9ths sound a lot better than if you have the 3rd and the 11th, just because the 3rd is so crucial to the tonality of the chord. See, that stuff is so much fun. I love doing that. Now, it's a very spicy thing. Just like if you're cooking, do not randomly throw spice in there. Know why you're throwing it in, know the context, know your audience. That's a big thing. If I'm arranging a pop tune for a high school marching band and if I use that kind of chord, the audience probably isn't going to like it, and the students might not like it either. Maybe the band director will be the only one that thinks it's cool and a few of the nerds inside the band, but honestly, most people will run away from that chord. So if we take our example that we've been using, the 1, 6, 4, 5, let's add some extensions to it. And I'm going to use good voice leading. So first, we're going to do an F major 6/9, which I love the sound of it. Using the 6th and the 9th. Then we're moving over to D minor. And honestly, all I'm going to do is move one single note, and that's the G from up here. So and then after that, we're going to the B flat, and I'm just gonna move this. And then we got the C dominant, which I'm just gonna move the bottom 2 notes. Then we go back to F. So extensions are very fun and very important. It's great to expand your harmonic vocabulary through these. Tertian substitution is just what it sounds like. It's substitution with a chord a third away, because those chords are very similar. Earlier I talked about how F major and D minor are extremely close, because they are. They share most of the notes. So a lot of the times you can replace a chord with a chord that's a third away. So if we do 1, 6, 4, 5, I'm going to take this 5 and change it to a 7. Now 7 is diminished. If you're going to do extensions on a diminished chord, just either do a fully diminished or half diminished. So anyways, we got the half diminished right here, and it leads really good back to F. So let's go and do the 1, 6, 4, 5 with some tertian substitution. So let's start out with the 1. Then we got the 6. The 4, and then the 7, back to 1. Perfect, just like that. Tertian substitution. Not too much to really talk about, but it still can be nice. It's a good way to create new chord progressions off of progressions that are already there. We do the same thing, but instead at the end, instead of doing 4, 5, 1, let's do 2, 5, 1. So we got 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. Now 2-5-1s are very powerful, especially if you're getting into jazz music. I honestly highly recommend practicing the 2-5-1s. There's some really good voice leading and stuff that you can do with it. Like for instance, there what I did at the very end, I could do 2, 5, 1. See, that's beautiful, jazzy, a lot of fun, and very simple. It's all just 9th and 13th chords right there. Next, I want to talk about secondary substitution. Now, secondary, it's not the same as tertian. I'm not going up a second or something and having substitution there. What I'm doing is creating leading chords. Actually, some people call it leading substitution or leading chords. I was talking earlier how tritones are a very important part of the dominant chord because they lead. That's why they're so important. Like this right here leads really nicely into. It has that tonal gravity to it. Now let's say I want to expand my chord progression or add another chord randomly inside the middle just for fun to spice up the harmonic speed. So let's say I want to go 1, 6, 4, another chord, and then 5, 1. Well, let's see what's going on with the 5. We got C major, so we can lead into it. We can use secondary substitution. There's 2 ways to lead into it. So we just find the chord that we want to go to, go a half step down, create a diminished chord out of it. Or we can go up a 5th and create a dominant chord out of that leads into it. And you can keep on stringing these together. I mean, I've done dumb practices where I'll start on a random chord, go down to the next dominant, go down to the next dominant, and then you get the point, keep on going. Yeah, it perpetually will fall forever, and eventually you will end up back where you were before. You go through the whole circle of 5ths though, which is a lot of fun to do. So let's create a chord that goes into that G near the very end. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Done. Just like that. And it can lead into either major or minor. So let's say I want to lead into that 6. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Done. See, that's a lot of fun. And you can even do it with diminished. Now, because I'm going to do it with diminished, I'm going to change up my chord voicing right here. So here we go with diminished. Beautiful, a lot of fun. Now I want to talk about another kind of substitution, Triton Substitution. Now this stuff is a lot of fun. It's used everywhere in jazz. You've probably heard of it before. You're going to take whatever chord you're at and you want to substitute it with a chord that's a tritone away and make sure it's a dominant chord. So let's say I'm going 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. Let's do 1, 6, 4, Triton Substitution, 1. It's usually used as the penultimate chord inside of a piece. I mean, you've probably heard this sound before. Yeah, all over jazz. It's beautiful. I like it. I use it all the time, even in non-jazz music. So instead of the C at the very end, let's go up a tritone, then bam. Got F sharp major for the very end. So here we go. See, it's very grand, very operatic, you know, it's so dramatic. I love using this. And you can throw it anywhere also. So instead of doing the 6, let's go ahead and use A flat. Hear how it's extremely grand. It really feels like it's setting up that ending, and that's so important. I use it all the time, and I mean all the time. It's so much fun. Next thing I want to talk about is borrowed chords. Now, borrowed chords is a very, very simple concept. You take the scale that you're on, whatever it is. We're in F major right now, so F major. And then when you're going to, let's say, the 6, pick from a different scale. So instead of F major, let's go F minor. Now what's the 6 of F minor? It is not D minor, but rather it is D flat major. So here we go. Let's use the borrowed chords. And honestly, I like to use the term cinematic for this more so because it's used all the time in movies. It's very cinematic, borrowed chords are. I love using them. It's great to go from major to minor, back and forth. Now, notice I said any scale, not just major or minor, because there's a lot of other scales out there. So for instance, let's say I want to take from a mode. So let's say I want to go from F Phrygian, which here's F Phrygian. Basically the same as D flat major. So let's say instead of doing 1 6 2 5 1, I'm gonna do 1 6 2 borrowed from the Phrygian 5 1. So here we go. 1 6 2. Again, very cinematic, almost eyebrow raising. So back to this chord progression that I was doing earlier, let's use a little bit of borrowed magic inside of it. Now for the scale, yeah, let's go with F minor again. I'm gonna have a secondary diminished chord as well as a borrowed chord, but I'm gonna do something pretty cool with it. Check this out. Here we go. Now notice inside the middle of that I had the original 4 as well as the minor 4, the borrowed version, and that's something that's used all the time. It has a really nice gospel chill vibe to it. Here, I'm gonna do it again, a little bit different. See, it's really sweet. It's beautiful. I like using it a lot. Last thing I'm talking about is chromatic medians. Now, chromatic medians are a very easy topic to understand. So you just have any chord, then go up either a major third or a minor third and create either a major chord or a minor chord out of that. It's very cinematic sounding, and you can use it as either substitution or just a random chord in the middle of it. So let's say I want to do the 1 6 4 5, but I want something between the 6 and the 4. Here we go. Very cinematic. It's usually used for longer stretches of chords. I like to use it near the end of stuff, and some of them I call like the eyebrow chord because it's whoa, it's very, you're raising it up. So like this right here, I love the sound. I love the sound of it, and some of them can sound more bleak. So if we do that with a minor chord, it's very bleak. It honestly makes the major chord at the end sound minor. Here I go again. See, it's weird. It's wacky. I love it. It's so much fun. And notice I said you can move up or down. So right there I moved down, but with good voice leading. And you may notice a lot of these things will cross over. Like some of those were borrowed chords, some were Triton substitutions, but they all are related one another. So there's some overlap with that. Anyways, hey, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna do more tutorials out there. I also started up Patreon, so you go ahead and subscribe to that if you want to. Only $1 a month or more if you're feeling generous, and you get access to a lot of goodies. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next video. Adios. This video is brought to you by Transact Card, a new way of doing online banking. For every dollar you spend with the card, you get a Z-Buck, which can be spent in an exclusive store for members only. I personally use Transact Card and I love them so much. My buying power has gone up a lot and I can get a lot of fun stuff for very cheap. Link is in the description to sign up and help support the channel.